Let's have some fun today on this Friday episode of Locked On Spurs and take a look at some Locked On Spurs YouTube fan questions and statements.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. TGIF, everybody. We're going to have some fun today. We're going to be looking at some Locked On Spurs YouTube questions, comments, opinions on a variety of topics about your silver and black. So we're going to pick about 2 to 4 of them. And get our guests to react to them or even help me answer some of the questions the fans have left right here on Locked On Spurs. And speaking of Locked On Spurs, we are part of the Locked On NBA Network. Everywhere you can find us, pick a platform. iTunes, Locked On Spurs is there. YouTube, Locked On Spurs is there. Ken's 5 Plus app, it's on there too. Spotify, pick a platform. Locked On Spurs can be found everywhere you're looking for your silver and black information. But before we go ahead and bring in our guests, just a quick chat with me. So I'm starting to see fans are starting to get a little more hyped for the season, little by little. They're counting down the days. You're seeing the countdown memes on social media. You're seeing so much happening right now, and it's brewing. It's brewing. And look, the Spurs just recently announced that Media Day will be on October 2nd. That's right around the corner. You're starting to feel it, are you? But as this season goes on, you want to maintain this energy. It's a long 82-game season. And yes, the Spurs are going to have their ups. They're going to have their downs. They're going to have their in-betweens. They're going to go on a winning streak. They're going to go on a losing streak. Wemby's going to have great games. He's going to have bad games. So, yeah, that patience is going to be key once again this new season. And sure, I get it. Spurs fans want to see this team already wrecking shop and knocking on the door of the playoffs, not the play-in. But, hey, that's going to take time. And that's something that I think Spurs fans have forgotten about when Wemby was picked. When GM Brian Wright says he's on his own path, we're going to see this team come together on their own and make of it what it will. That doesn't shut the door that this is the team they're going to go with the future. This is just the team they're going to look at for the short term to see if maybe adjustments need to be made. Look, I've heard this before. You remember when it was like the next core three, it was going to be Lonnie Walker and Derek White and DeJounte Murray. And what did we hear from Brian Wright? Same thing. We're going to see them develop and grow together. And guess what? They're all gone now. They're all gone now. Josh Primo is another one. Okay, put aside what he did off the court, but on the court, you heard it too. You know, he's going to take his time. So when that's the same approach the Spurs are going to be doing with the Wemby and the core that they have on this current roster. Don't be surprised if some big changes happen, just as we've seen in the past, in the recent history. I mentioned 3 players that many Spurs fans probably thought that would never get traded. DeJounte's an all-star. Why would they trade him? Look at Derek White. He's our best guard on this team. Lonnie Walker, freakish athleticism, but they're all gone now. So you got to keep that in mind. This team is still in flux. This team is still rebuilding. They're going to be rebuilding around Wemby. And here's the other thing, too. We still don't know how Wemby's going to pan out. He's a lot of hype right now, but let's see what he can do on the NBA stage first. And then I think that's the approach the Spurs are going to take. You know, he's probably going to get bullied and pushed around a lot and tested. Hopefully he will pass those tests, and I think he will. The Spurs definitely got themselves the next generational player, and good thing he is wearing silver and black. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. He is Joe Garcia with Two Shots Podcast. Now, in case anybody's wondering why we're not a video today, this was actually Joe coming off the bench like Manu Ginobili. We had a previous guest scheduled for today. Unfortunately, he had to cancel, and unfortunately, Joe is at work right now, and he made it very clear he cannot come on camera. He's at work, but he can do audio. So, Joe, we appreciate you being flexible and working with us and coming off the bench for us.
Yeah, of course, man. You do the same for me, Jeff. So, got to return the favor. You know, I'm always here. Put me in the game, coach.
There you go. He is with the Two Shots Podcast, and he's also with the Alamo City Sports podcast or network, I should say, on YouTube. He's going to talk about that later on this show. And as noted, Joe is short on time. So we're going to respect that, and we're going to have some fun right now. Joe, I've never done this before. You do this on your YouTube show where you interact with fans, you take fan questions. And I was watching you do that on your last episode on YouTube. And I said, you know what? I think I want to try that on the next episode of Locked On Spurs. I think this would have probably been on a Monday episode, but because our guest had to cancel, original guest canceled, I just bumped it up. So what we're going to be doing today, everybody, is taking a look at some fan YouTube comments left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Now, these can be questions. These can be fan general thoughts. They can be, some bad ones too. Yeah, there are some negative ones that some fans are not buying into the hype of this upcoming Spurs season and roster. Make sure to follow Joe on Twitter at 2Shots Podcast. So, Joe, let's dive into this. Let's take a look at a couple of YouTube comments left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. And here we go. The first left comment on Locked On Spurs is from Luis Cesar Vargas. He says, I don't think the administration is doing much to start building around Victor Wembanyama yet. So he left that on the Locked On page there on YouTube, Joe. Joe, you are the guest. So I'll let you react to that. Do you think the Spurs administration is doing much or not doing much to start building around Victor?
I think what they're gonna want to do is they're gonna want to kick the tires to see what they have right now in this young core. And the thing is, this is the start of the Wemby era. So with that being said, when you go back and you look at Spurs history, when the Spurs winded up drafting David Robinson, he came in 2 years later. He had a tremendous impact, but the Spurs needed to go ahead and get to a certain, point so they could be competitive. It's a process. So it's coming. But the thing is, brace yourselves, because sometimes you might have to say goodbye to some of your fan favorites.
Yeah, and Luis, I understand where you're coming from, but I think you're probably asking too much too soon right now, because who knows? Perhaps this current roster may work with Victor. What if their rebuild, Joe, is actually just developing chemistry? In my opinion, and as well as for you, Luis, I believe that Sohan is a good compliment to Wemby. I think Zach Collins is a good compliment to Wemby. I think Keldon and Devin are good compliments. Maybe that build around Victor is just simply developing chemistry with some of the players they have right now. And here's the thing, too. A lot of those players, Joe, that we're talking about right now with Sohan and Vassell and Keldon and Zach and other players like Trey and Malachi, they're going to have to adjust their way of playing, too, because it's all about Wemby now. So remember last year, Joe, it was heavy minutes for all of these guys. Well, guess what? All those heavy minutes and touches are going to be diverted now to Wemby. So that's going to be their adjustment process too. So, Luis, I see what you're trying to get at, but I think the Spurs would do themselves a disservice to kind of blow it up again. I think that would be the wrong approach so early in the Wemby era, Joe. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you have to be patient. Things don't always happen instantaneously. And I think that's going to be the thing that's going to happen this upcoming season. You're going to have to be a little patient. Moves will be made, possibly even this season. But for right now, I think they're just wanting to look and see what they have. They're going to start they're going to start the season with the core that we've already grown accustomed to. But one thing that you need to pay attention to, Spurs fans, is if the Spurs start going ahead and listening or entertaining any trades that involves their let's say their veterans, that might signal a way that the Spurs want to go, and that could actually signal maybe they still want to go ahead and be a lottery team and go and draft some picks in this upcoming draft. Meaning they know that they're probably not going to get number one again. Who knows? Lightning could strike twice. But if they want to go ahead and entertain that idea, they might go ahead and make that move and start getting let's say seeing what they can get for their veterans. But just something to keep an eye on. Take a look at it. Spurs fans want some moves to be made, and if they make that move, that signals the direction of the team.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we're not done taking a look at a few Locked On Spurs YouTube comments and questions. When we get back, we're going to look at about two or three more and see what the fans are saying right here on Locked On Spurs.
Hello there.
Hey, everybody, I want to talk to you about Bird Dogs. Look, you want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to be cool in these hot days, you need to get yourself Bird Dogs right now. So what Bird Dogs does is basically they design some stretch khaki shorts, and they're designed to fit a little slimmer, make you look good through the thigh, through the leg, and it's a perfect a way to get through these hot summer days with some Bird Dog khakis. Now, Bird Dog shorts, they do exactly the same thing as Lululemon, but just fit way better. They fixed that issue with inventing kind of like a cloud knit fabric. It looks like khaki, but stretches. It gives you a slimmer fit without having to sacrifice any movement. They also use an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Look, I have a pair of those khaki shorts. I got a pair of the sweatpants. They fit great. I use them constantly. And guess what? They keep me cool and dry. I use them at the gym. Keeps me cool and dry there. No nastiness with me when I go to the gym wearing my Bird Dog shorts khakis. Hey, you want to go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA right now. Enter promo code LockedOnNBA. Get yourself a free Yeti style tumbler. I have one. Get yourself one right now. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or promo code LockedOnNBA for that free Yeti style tumbler. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off, I promise you.
Hello there.
And we are back right here on Locked On Spurs with Joe Garcia of Two Shots Podcast and the YouTube show Alamo City Sports Podcast. We're going to be discussing that and more. But on today's episode, Joe and I are looking at some fan comments and questions and whatnot that have been left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. So let's go in and continue that, and make sure you follow Joe on Twitter at Two Shots Podcast. All right, we have another one. This is from John Blackman. Joe, he says, it's a good thing that he, Wembanyama, comes with that attitude. Wemby sees himself as a winner. Now, he's reacting to Wemby's recent statement about trying to get the Spurs team into the playoffs in his rookie season. First of all, what else is Wemby going to say? He's not going to say, well, I think we should tank, or I think we should bottom out. He ain't going to say that. But, Joe, what are your thoughts about Wemby coming in with that winning attitude and what John has seen out of Wemby so far?
I mean, it's good to see Wemby, have this winning attitude and say the right things. He already sounds like, your stereotypical Spurs player. However, saying things and actually having them come to fruition are two totally different aspects of the game, and I appreciate his enthusiasm. I really do. But at the end of the day, you're just going to have to appreciate the product that's out there. I'm not going to be over here overly critiquing everybody, because it's a new era in Spurs history right now. It's the Wemby era. So we're just going to have to go and see what happens. But regardless of whether they win, they lose, they're a lottery team, or they're flirting with the play-in, I'm just going to enjoy the ride. And I think Spurs fans should as well. Enjoy the very beginning of the Wemby era.
Absolutely. And look, I'm glad that he is setting the tone for this young team. And I say young loosely because there are veterans now. I think we can safely say Kelt is not a young NBA player. He's entering year 5. Same thing goes for Vassell. I believe went into year 4, I believe. So they're already starting to have their veterans. Zach Collins, he's part of that mix too. Doug McDermott. Who else we got? The Spurs have City Osman as of now. That's another vet on the roster. So the core may be young in NBA standards, but I think if Wemby is starting to infuse this type of winning mentality, might as well do it now. Start off on the right foot, set the tone. If he is going to be that franchise player, then come in with the right comments. Now, to clarify, Wemby did say that he does feel like it'll take time for the Spurs to postseason and beyond titles. So at least he's being reasonable. But Joe, let me ask you, would you be surprised if the Spurs do make the postseason in his rookie season?
I would say I would be surprised if they do make the playoffs in his rookie season. I mean, it would be a welcome surprise. Let's put it like that. That means that the team is playing at a very high level. And if that is the scenario that we might be looking at in the upcoming season, I mean, I would say that they went ahead and exceeded expectations at that point. And I would just be ecstatic, and I'm sure the whole city would be excited and erupting, and it's going to be, let's go honking down Commerce, and we're going to see the resurgence of the bootleg merchandise and the flags, and good times, Jeff, good times. I'm looking forward to that at some point. But again, like I said, I'm just going to have the wait and see attitude and just enjoy it for what it is, the beginning of the Wemby era.
All right, our next comment comes from Safe Space Invader. I love that name because I'm a big nerd, and so is Joe. Um, he says the Spurs, have young players draft picks for years and expiring contracts, and I hope they make a trade. It'll be impossible for them to draft first round picks over the next 3 to 4 years. That is almost a whole other team. They need to trade some of those at some point. Now, thank you for the comment, Safe Space Invader. But let me address that. I would not be surprised, nor you should be surprised if that does happen, because I mean, Joe, Safe Space Invader, what has Brian Wright been doing? He's been flipping players for the bulk of his tenure here in San Antonio. He traded DeJounte, he traded Derek, he traded Bryn Forbes, he traded Drew Eubanks, he got over one on the Hawks. The list goes on and on. He's been trading. I haven't seen this many trades since Trader Bob Bass back in the day, Joe. It's been a long time. So I think that is probably on the table if they want to get the Wemby era going smoothly, where they need to flip players for available all-stars or more draft picks, or simply packaging guys together so they can get a quality players or better players to fit in with the Wemby era. I think that'll happen. Joe, the Spurs have tons of draft picks. I'm expecting them to still be major wheeler and dealers in trade deadline scenarios, draft day scenarios. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be in the conversation. I mean, they do have a lot of assets that some teams will find attractive as far as their picks go, and they do have some savvy veterans on the team. If in fact another team wants to go ahead and make a trade, and the Spurs want to go in that direction to go ahead and stack more picks, because let's be honest, injuries will happen. So again, something to definitely keep an eye on and see what direction is the team going to go in. Are they going to keep the vets and roll with the team they have, or are they going to go ahead and make some trades and kind of be a lottery team? It'd be interesting to see how the season pans out for them.
Yeah, I think perhaps outside of Wemby, maybe Sohan, but don't be surprised if some of your other favorite players are get involved in trade rumors or get flipped. I mean, how many times did we see that when DeJounte was still a Spur? They're not going to trade him. They are dumb. He's their rising star. He's their all-star. And what happened? Flipped them. So that should tell you a lot that perhaps any player outside of Wemby and maybe Sohan, maybe Devin, are not that untouchable. Our next comment comes from Tom Martinez. He left this comment on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. He says, 22-win team and worst defense in the NBA. Yeah, 2 or more years. So, Joe, Tom is projecting the Spurs to have a 22-win season and the worst defense in the NBA next year. Buying or selling that?
The worst defense? I don't think they're going to have the worst defense. I think they're going to have a pretty decent defense. Yeah. Now, the issue is I don't think they're going to have the firepower to match up with the opposing teams, especially some of the better teams in the Western and Eastern Conference. I think the Spurs are going to be able to be competitive, but they're still lacking a few weapons here specifically. And again, it's not a knock on Trey Jones, but specifically the weakness right now, the point guard position.
Yeah, I know that is the quote-unquote weakest spot, but I made it very clear. I'm a big fan of Trey Jones. I think he provides exactly what this team needs, and they're going to look at the undersized player that he is, the outside shot. But I look at it kind of like a weight scale thing where, okay, there's all these pros, but look at all these cons, or like all these cons, look at all these pros. I still see more pros than cons out of Trey Jones, and he has a very team-friendly deal. I think he brings a lot of value to this team. But, to address Tom's comment here, I disagree. I don't think it'll be a 22-win team. I think they're going to be pushing mid-30s, maybe high 30s. Worst defense in the NBA? Come on. Wemby's coming. Did you forget about Sohan? Did you forget about other players at defense, like Devin Vassell? There's another good defender. So I don't think they'll be the worst defense in the NBA. Joe, Tom, I think they'll probably be one of the better ones. I'm not going to be surprised if they're a top 10 defensive team, Joe. I mean, I think Wemby alone just boosts them tremendously. Your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely he boosts them as far as their defense goes. But again, how well are they going to be from the offensive perspective? They're great in the open court, But when teams go ahead and kind of press the issue, get them in a half court set, and kind of slow things down for them, they become a little bit more methodical in their offensive, let's say, execution. It gets harder for them once they go ahead and start triple teaming some of their better players. They're forced to make, bad shots, or they start making, let's say, bad decisions with the ball. And those usually turn into turnovers going the other way for an easy dunk or a quick layup. So we're gonna have to see how the experience level is for this young team, and if they can go ahead and rectify some of the wrongs that they had last season.
Mm-hmm. Our next comment comes from Apollo 24ZZ, and it kind of ties into what we're talking about, Trey Jones. He says, Blake Wesley, my guy. I want him to get a clear shot before talking about another point guard. Are we forgetting about Blake Wesley? I don't think so. And I think he will get his shot to prove himself as a viable option at the point guard spot. I mean, the Spurs just did, release Campaign. I mean, that was huge. I was a little surprised about that. I thought Campaign would be with the Spurs until at least the All-Star break trade deadline. But I think that was a clear message to the other players at that position that, hey, the door's still wide open. It's not shut, which I think would make for great training camp battles. I would love to see what Blake Wesley can do, backing up Trey Jones. Will Blake Wesley likely spend a little time in Austin? I think so. Maybe not as much as he did last year. But do you think Blake Wesley would get that clear shot as a viable option at point guard as Apollo is hoping?
Man, I the kid he shows potential, but there's still some seasoning that he needs. He needs some experience. He needs some playing time. And I think, he'll probably get that, but it's not going to be specifically with the San Antonio Spurs. It might be more in the Austin Spurs, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's a work in progress, and we're going to have to see how he looks. Remember, the other works in progress, they're no longer here, so Lonnie Walker's off playing with another team, and that's the thing. It's that when you go ahead and draft, there's always these, I guess, promising young athletes. They show promise, but at the end of the day, you just have to see what's in the best interest of the team moving forward. And if the team thinks they're as far along as they need to be, I think that same thing could be said for Blake Wesley.
Yeah, by the way, Apollo 24ZZ also says that they're not a fan of the Cowboys. Boo.
What fan he is. I hope he's not a Bears fan.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he does have a bear. It looks like a bear logo for his comment photo there.
Well, then pour some out for him if he is a Bears fan, man. They're not having a good
we don't know. We don't know. He could be just in there like you and me and just like bears, animated bears, but we don't know. But yeah, I think Blake Wesley does have a viable shot. I think, again, Campaign gone. That's huge. That's Blake Wesley. That's Sohan. That's Julian Champagnie. Hello, you guys are up front and center now. See what you could do. I think the starting point guard, if they go the traditional route, is Trey Jones's to lose right now. But man, what a battle to back him up between Wesley and Champagnie and maybe Malachi. Who knows? I don't think Malachi is a great distributor, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. But hey, we're not done talking. When we get back, Joe and I are going to continue our talking about your silver and black, catch up with some Spurs news and notes, and much, much more right here on Locked On Spurs.
Autobots, roll out!
Missing that syrup for your pancakes, or you just ran out of your favorite creamer? With DoorDash Delivery Groceries, you can get what you want right when you need it. Love the convenience of getting what you want right to your door. With DoorDash Grocery Delivery, you can stock up for the week or order last-minute cravings conveniently. If you burnt that last piece of toast, avocado's gone bad, or the hot sauce is an empty bottle, try groceries from DoorDash. You get whatever you want delivered when you need it right to your door. Need fresh groceries for the week, but you don't have time to go to the store? Try grocery delivery from DoorDash. Everything you want delivered when you need it right to your door. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites. Now you can trust them to get your groceries delivered at Ashley's Delivers to you. With thousands of grocery stores to choose from, you'll find the best in your neighborhood and boost your local economy with each and every order. Want even more values? Well, you can save on your groceries and restaurant favorites with $0 delivery fee on eligible orders with Dash Pass membership. With easy substitutions right in the app and best-in-class customer service, DoorDash delivers groceries exactly how you want it. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONNBA at checkout. Limited time offer, terms apply. That's 50% off up to $20, no minimal subtotal, and zero delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNBA for 50% off your first order with DoorDash.
Autobots, roll out.
I want to talk to you about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee, locally owned, a proud sponsor of Locked On Spurs right here in San Antonio. Located at 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the Stone Oak area. If you're in San Antonio, 281-1604. You want to go there right now. Great menu, dairy alternatives. They have the signature Mudslinger coffee, which is espresso and caramel. I mean, it is just delicious. You got to get that. And over 300 five-star reviews cannot be wrong. That's how much love Mudslinger gets. And it's becoming a very well-known spot to go get a coffee or a drink to give you a boost during the day. They have a Red Bull infused lightning bolt series, and exactly what it sounds like. It's going to get you through the day, give you that lightning energy you need. And they also have the Alien, which is in honor of Victor Wembanyama's arrival in San Antonio. It's a full can of Red Bull, kiwi, apple, all mixed together. Very delicious. They also have the Sub-Zero. For those UTSA fans in San Antonio, that is in honor of Frank Harris. Go get it right now. And how can we forget about the OG? That is the Orange Julius string back when it was popular in the 70s, 80s. What's back in San Antonio? You don't have to go to the old school Ingram Park Mall anymore to look for it. You don't have to hunt for it. Just go to Mudslingers right now. Ask for the OG, the recreated Orange Julius, only at Mudslingers. Look, you can find Mudslingers everywhere on Threads, on TikTok, YouTube. Not YouTube, but their Instagram page. I mean, they are everywhere. You can find them at Mudslinger SATX. They're open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Great menu. So many alternatives to coffee on that menu. Mini donuts if you want to get a little snack going. Friendly staff. Everybody loves Mudslingers. I guarantee you'll love it too. Once again, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Life is too short for a bland coffee. It's going to bring in our guest. He is Joe Garcia, Two Shots Podcast, and much more. He'll talk about that in just a few minutes. And once again, Joe is coming off the bench a la Manu Ginobili. We had our original guest, could not make it, but Joe cannot be on video today because he is at work. And as a matter of fact, we took a long pause for Joe a little while ago because he had to get some phone calls in. But we got to give you a nice pat on the back, Joe, for stepping up right now. So, Joe, because we know you're short on time, let's go ahead and tackle some Spurs news and notes. And the first one is Panini has revealed their first ever one of one, yes, the only one made, of a Victor Wembanyama card, the rookie card. Now, it's in a Spurs uniform. Looks like he's going up for a dunk. But, Joe, that card sold for over $5,000. For you, Joe, that's nothing, right? You were the mystery buyer, weren't you? Admit it. You were the guy who bought it, weren't you?
Not by a long shot, man. I'm not ordering steaks on silver platters here, man, so I don't got that kind of coin.
But, I mean, Wemby cards are selling like for a lot of money right now. My big fear, Joe, is they bought it like perhaps they don't retain value. Like knock on wood, nothing happens to Wemby. But if something does happen to Wemby, that's a little scary investment, huh, Joe?
Oh yeah, no doubt. But I mean, hey, you got to spend big to earn some big coins. So I mean, that guy, whoever went ahead and bought that card, that's a gambler, man. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have you ever spent a lot of money on a sports memorabilia item that you always wanted, like that kind of cash?
No, man. We would just make trades when I was younger. Like if there was a card you absolutely had to have, and one of your boys had it, you would barter. You had cards. We used to collect a lot of baseball and basketball cards back in the day, football cards, comic books, all sorts of stuff. So if there's something you needed to have, man, you would make a trade. You would make it work.
In other Spurs news, the Spurs have cut their roster down by one. Guard Javonte McCoy is no longer with the San Antonio Spurs, but doesn't mean he's out of the Spurs family. Remember, he signed an Exhibit 10 deal that'll likely push him to the Austin Spurs. So you'll be able to see him develop, hopefully, into a quality San Antonio player down the road. In other Spurs news, Joe, the Spurs did announce recently their promotional schedule for next season. So those are your theme nights, like your Star Wars night or your 80s night or your 90s night. All that is out already. And it looks like it's going to be a fun-filled calendar for Spurs fans to enjoy. There's going to be obviously opening night, Veterans Night, Hispanic Heritage Night. They're also going to have Box Out Cancer Night. Probably a lot more coming ahead, Fan Appreciation Night. Joe, but at least initially, I'm a little worried. Doesn't look like they're going to have a Star Wars night. They've been having that for a few seasons now. Joe, I'm a little worried as a big nerd. I need to have my Star Wars night.
Well, I mean, they're having other themed nights. I did not see on the docket, though, a Star Wars themed night. So much to
remember they had, didn't the Spurs have a Selena night a couple years ago?
Yeah, they did have a Selena night, but I know you're looking forward to the Star Wars night. The only thing that stinks for you is that since you're a member of the media, if they're handing out any swag that day, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get it. But maybe if you go to the game and you're covering it, maybe you can go ahead and snag one of the T-shirts that's a Spurs/Star Wars T-shirt. Yeah.
Those are fun, yeah. So they're going to have a lot of theme nights. Now, if you look on the calendar, there's a lot of nights called the City Night. So a lot of people are like, well, what are the City Nights? Well, those are nights where there's going to be games geared towards the in-season tournament. So, for example, on November 10th versus Minnesota, that's a City Night. November 20th, that's a City Night versus Kawhi and the Clippers. So that's just really just all about the in-season tournament. Those are games that go towards that tournament, the seeding and whatnot. So expect that and more. And it looks like it's shaping up to be a great night. Joe, this was fun. I like taking on Spurs fans' questions, comments, and thoughts from YouTube. I think I'm going to do it again. Soon.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to do that. We're going to do something similar as well, but I think we're going to have them give us their biggest and the best hot takes, and they'll be rewarded because we'll play some of those on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe, speaking of shows, what's going on with Two Shots and the YouTube show you got going?
Oh, the YouTube show, we had to dial things back a little bit. We're on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but we're going to have other shows taking that Tuesday, Thursday time slot. One of those shows was The Fantasy God Extra Point, which aired today. Probably next Tuesday, you're going to have yours truly. I'm going to be doing a live stream of the Two Shots podcast, so look forward to that. And we're probably going to be recording an episode this week, so look forward to a new episode dropping over the weekend.
Absolutely. And again, follow Joe on Twitter at Two Shots Podcast. Hey, we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. We'll be back next week, Monday, talking all things Spurs. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and leave your comments. Now that we're going to be addressing these YouTube comments, leave us your thoughts. Tell us what you think about the season ahead, the Wemby era, the likes, dislikes about your Spurs. We want to hear it all and read them on the next time we do this right here on Locked On Spurs. Spotify, Apple, the list goes on and on. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs and the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network show, from the NFL side to the MLB side and the NBA side. It's all covered there. So for Joe Garcia, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.